You need to monetize outside of just payouts. You need to have program, product, something. How can I do it? You could sell an info product, consulting. There's so many things you can do off the back of doing something impressive.
We agree that nobody uses their link in bio, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, good. So we're in agreement on this one. That shit doesn't work. You got to do something to get people to move now.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because I even made like a thread the other day, or maybe like 2 weeks ago, talking about growing pages in anticipation of payouts. But I even said in the thread, I'm like, you need to monetize outside of just payouts, right? Like you need to have a program, a product, something. You need to be doing something. And the reason I want to make this analogy is because you look at like Mr. Beast, right? He is probably the highest ad revenue in history from a social media account, right? And he doesn't even make a lot in comparison to what he's spending on those videos, right?
How much does he make? Do you know?
I want to say he posted it in the subscribe I'm subscribed to him on Twitter for like $5 a month, and he had posted it, but it wasn't a lot. It was like tens of thousands of dollars. He's putting,
and that's the best in the world.
And that's the best, and he's putting hundreds per video, right? So tens of thousands of dollars per video. He's putting hundreds. And the reason I say that is because like they make way more from the e-commerce products, Feastables, and merch, and then also sponsorships. Every video has a sponsorship. Even the latest one was sponsored by Shopify. They're paying him like 50, 100, 200. Like they're paying him a lot because it's like a Super Bowl ad. You're getting millions of eyeballs, right? So he's making hundreds of thousands from sponsors and products, if not millions, and only like 10 to 20 to 30 for ad revenue.
Is that his main source of income, sponsorships?
I want to say now it must be product, but I would say the sponsorships, and this is just a guess, but my guess would be sponsorships and ad revenue is just reinvested, and that they're really going to make money off of the equity of the businesses, like Feastables. I imagine he doesn't need any cash flow.
You know, the biggest thing that this ad page did for me? Okay, so for context, I was in Austin living with Dakota, Robertson, and Dan Co. like a year ago or something, a year and a half ago. And we were sitting at the couch. And the cool thing about living with those guys is they made me dream big, man. Like these guys have work ethic. They just do cool stuff. And I thought, I want to do something. I want to start a theme page, right? Not that it's like big, but it was just kind of a fun experiment. So I called it the best ads of all time, at best ads time on Twitter/X. So I posted it every day, 1 or 2 ads about Porsche, Rolls-Royce, Apple, and then me, Dakota, and Dan would retweet it with our followings. And in like 2 months, it got to like 35,000 followers. It was great. It was awesome. Like we got a bunch of cool followers. Sam Parr, David Perel. There's a page, by the way, one of my favorites, called VCs Congratulating Themselves. Have you seen that?
I've seen something. I've seen the VC memes.
Yeah. It's the hardest job in the world. Like nobody works as hard as us. We're the best. We're the messiahs. Anyway, we got a bunch of cool followers. And I haven't made much money from it. It's like 40K followers. I kind of lost the number. I got it back now, so I got back access. But the best thing about those pages, at least for me, I found, was the clout. Like people it was hard to monetize and launch the newsletter, and people just kind of didn't join. But it's like, oh, you run that page. That's pretty cool. Oh, you build that. That's pretty cool. So even though like saying cash, even though we know that it's not making much money, people do have certain tendency to respect you more if you have a big account. So that is a counter argument to that. They want that clout. They want to associate with other people with big accounts. So
yeah,
it was a big experiment. It's fun.
Yeah, and that's in the thread I wrote. I believe it was called "If I Had to Start Over, This Is What I Would Do Today." And in that thread, I say the reason I wouldn't build a personal brand if I was starting from nothing is because I have no authority. You're a nobody. You have no skills. You have no clout. Why would someone follow you? I said build a theme page because now you can build your personal brand off the back of the fact that you built the theme page, right? It's so cool. It's so cool if you're like, yeah, I have this account that I hit like 50K followers on. Like, that's sick. They're going to be like, well, how did you do it? How can I do it? Etc. You could sell an info product, consulting. You have authority. You can start an agency. There's so many things you can do off the back of doing something impressive. It's literally building a skill on top of, you can monetize the page. And this actually brings me to another point, and it's been like doing the rounds on Twitter lately. I know you're not on this side, so I'll bring it up.
The rounds? What's a round?
Yeah, like doing the rounds is just like a saying, like it's people are talking about it. So these big meme pages such as Internet Hall of Fame and some of these other ones, Corn, Uplift, like these really massive Twitter influencers. There's a conspiracy. Apparently it's the truth. It's been in the what's the reader added context thing? Community notes. They'll post memes making fun of OnlyFans people, but it's actually a secret funnel. The OnlyFans people that are getting memed on in the original tweet will then comment, and then the original poster will then respond to their comment, and that's how they drive traffic to their link in bio. It's unreal. It's so smart. So they purposely get memed. They pay this person to meme themselves, and then they drive the traffic through the replies to the person's page. And finally the readers have figured it out, and they keep community noting the posts. They're like, this is actually just a secret funnel to drive you to the OnlyFans page.
That's weird.
It's so smart. I'm like, who created this? I want them on this fucking podcast immediately. Like, I need to understand how they figured this out.
I've seen a few of those OnlyFans girls. They'll post something like, "Do I look cute today?" Or like, they'll post a screenshot of somebody like mistreating them or something, and then they'll post that, and here comes the white knight saying, "I would never treat you like that, baby." That's and that's how it goes viral.
Well, the big funnel of this past quarter is OnlyFans girls replying to every big tweet. I've muted so many of them because they just reply so that you click their profile. But they'll just reply anything. And then the funny thing is they'll always get ratioed by someone else, like a reply guy, and they'll be like, we're not buying fucking OnlyFans.
And yet they do. Like, it's working, so they do it. Yeah.
It's so bad.
Dude, like a lot of marketing hacks, even though people know about it, they still work. We all know about hooks, right? We're still hooked. I was reading, I've talked about this. I try to read foundational books. So you see those right here? I don't read a lot of them. I just read kind of the foundational ones, the ones that are like really basic, like Influence, right, by Cialdini. And there was the greatest car salesman in the world. I read about this yesterday. He used to give you cards, little cards, ship them over to your house, in which they said, "I like you." That's all it said. But because that person liked you, you knew he wanted to sell you cars. You knew what his trick was. But because he was doing it, you were like, okay, fuck it. At least I don't hate him as much as others. And if you think about buying a car, you will probably buy from that guy just because of the fact that he did that. Now, you know the trick, but it still works, right? So sometimes people are like, oh, that's too basic for me. Well, another word for basic is fundamental. And a fundamental needs to be in the marketing campaign or it fails. So maybe you should start reading astrology books. Like maybe the astrology equivalent in business books is this like really basics. Like people will ask me, what book do you recommend? I'm like, oh, bro, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And like, really? Like, you're serious? I'm like, yeah, dude, it's the foundational one. It starts with that.
Well, you might realize this when are you going to take the ads account seriously? You didn't even say.
I will post one a day and take it from there. I don't think so.
Okay, so for example, right, like you'll realize if you posting one a day, you're gonna see trends, and they all kind of follow the same like foundations. But like what's timeless is like sexy sells, and it's like these luxury brands. It's just like been like forever, hundreds of years. Sexy sells always, and exclusivity sells. And I'm interested to see if we can draw trends in the best ads of all time and
I have a few for you. Did you know that the most clever ones never work? Again, clear, not clever, right? We're not going to get into that. But the most clever ones never work. For me, best ad of all time, Omega is Speedmaster, which was kind of cool. But you know what the ones that hit? It's the car ads. It's Porsche. It's Rolls Royce. And it's, that's it. That's all the ones. Like, it could literally be called best car ads of all time, and it'd still be the same page. People want to see cars. I don't know. You said luxury sells. Man, yeah, I agree with that. Did you know that? Jay Leno? He has a collection of cars, and he doesn't own a Ferrari. Do you know why he doesn't own a Ferrari?
Why?
Dude, he has like hundreds of cars, like luxury cars. He doesn't own a Ferrari, and they asked him why. He said that he doesn't own a Ferrari because he wanted to buy the top end Ferrari, but you can't. You have to buy the smaller end. You buy that one, and only after that do you get approved after a long process to buy the big one. And he said, no, that's bullshit. I'm not I'm not gonna go through that process. I like Ferraris. I don't like the process of it. That's why he doesn't own a Ferrari. But it's just exclusivity. People want to be seen as higher status, which kind of brings me to an idea I wanted to roll by you, and I think people will like it. So we got confirmed 2 big names for they want to do a workshop with me, or like I want to do a workshop with them. Being clear, okay? So we're gonna do a workshop together. Yeah, like totally. It's like when you know one person, but just kind of you saw him at a concert. Oh yeah, I know Taylor Swift. Of course I do. Anyway, this person, I'm thinking about doing a Zoom webinar, and the cool thing will be I will be the host. That person will be the co-host, so we're both hosts. My clients will be panelists, and everybody else will be attendees. So the gist of this is, say, we're going to have a workshop in which everybody can listen in and you can join, but only clients can ask questions, right? So people can see the velvet rope. People can see that they can. It's like the little exclusivity. Everybody gets value, but it's kind of painful when you don't get what everybody else gets. So people are like, okay, what's this client thing? I want to join. So that's a thesis I wanted to test.
I think it's interesting. It just logistically, if you can handle the bandwidth on it, like if you can handle enough people, I mean, it'd probably be a few hundred. I think it'd be well. Someone who does this well is Alex Becker, and I feel like I always have an analogy for everything. I wonder is that annoying, or do people like?
No, I think it's very useful. I've been looking at other podcasts, man. Like when I scroll on YouTube Shorts, most of them of the podcast clips I watch are analogies or stories. So every time you tell one of those, I'm actually really interested more in that than when you talk theory, because it's like an example I can see.
It's so much better to reference someone that's bigger than you on like to support your ideas. You know what I mean? So it's not just like you have to believe me. Anyway, Alex Becker did it really well. He does it really well with his brand Neo Tokyo. So this is his business aside from Hyros, and he has 2 tiers of access to his community. You have the elites, so S1, and you could call this your clients, and then he has the lower tier, which is just the citizens. It's S2. And S2 are the lower ticket, essentially the lower ticket entry level for his project, and the high ticket is S1. S1, he has his big community Q&A. S1s can ask questions, and S2s can listen, but nobody else can listen. It's interesting. It's the same concept of what you said. He's like, I'm not going to do any collaborations with anybody. If you want access to me after I just exited my $100 million software company, you have to be either an S1 or an S2. And I thought that was interesting. It's essentially
my internet, or is it your internet? You're back.
Okay, cool. So it was like, yeah, you either have to be S1 or S2 to listen. I just exited my company for $100 million, and I'm not going on any other podcast. I'm not talking about it anywhere else. Join here if you want access to it. So I thought that was really interesting. It's similar to what you just said, where your S1 is your clients, and then the S2 is everybody else.
Do you ever want to do that? Becker did it right, man. Made a ton of money, and then said he didn't beat the game because he's not the richest man in the world, but he opted out of the game, which in my opinion is cooler than winning the game. Personally, I think he did it right.
I think it's I could see that, for me in 5 to 10 years. It's just like he did it in seasons. Like he had an agency, and he had built his YouTube, built his info product, built his SaaS. He did it the right way, but he did it the slow way. I don't think many people are willing to do it the slow way.
I like 2 points that I wanted to say on what you said. It's the exclusivity. I'm part of this mastermind. It's called Black Belt and Boardroom from Taki Moore. They had an in-person event. In the in-person event, the tables at which you could sit, everybody had like white cloth, but the top dogs had black cloth on their table, and they were closer to the stage. He said that the other dudes would come up to him and say, next year, I'm going to be sitting there. Next year, I'm going to be on the black cloth table. Now, mind you, he was also saying, next year, I'm going to let you sell me on your higher end program. But it's a different dynamic. It's more elegant. So one thing I wanted to say. The second one that I thought was kind of an interesting segue, and I thought we can get deep into this, is when you said reference someone higher in order to prove your point. And I like that a lot. And I've been thinking about every person has a certain button you can push that will automatically kind of persuade them. I'll give you an example. Let's say you really respect your dad, right? And it's like you have a behavior that your dad wouldn't agree with. And then your mom would say something like, well, your dad said something about this, therefore you shouldn't do it. And because your dad said it, you don't question it. You said Becker right now. Maybe a Becker fan would listen to that and they wouldn't question it. Or Hormozy. I use this a lot. Hormozy said this, and therefore it must be true, right? People have kind of an if-then relationship to getting their conclusions. And I feel like if you can find that person who they really trust, it's kind of persuasion in autopilot. Who do they trust? And then you use that every time you want to persuade them to do something.
Yeah, I also feel like two things. One, I never want to say anything definitive unless it's like very specific to my expertise. Like if it was specifically about what my agency did, I feel like I'd be in the best position as an expert. But 99.9% of everything else is like, I feel like we have to support it to truly hit it home with the listeners. And two is like, I feel like no matter how high you get, there's always someone higher you can reference. And I think to Mike Tyson, every time he's on a podcast, he always references one of the great warriors or the great leaders of all time, Genghis Khan or Napoleon. He always references one of these war generals that are timeless above himself. So like you think Mike Tyson, he's one of the fiercest warriors of our generation, and he's referencing the ancient warriors from hundreds of years ago. So I thought it was interesting. It's like all the conquerors. So it's just, you can always look further, you know what I mean, to support your facts. I think it's a powerful tool at every level.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then another one, which it makes people open-minded as well, is finding out when a famous person or a person they respect said something wrong. So one time, I think Warren Buffett said something like, oh, tech stocks are not going to go anywhere. You know, the greatest investor of all time, he said something like that. Don't quote me on it, but something similar happened. But then it's like, oh, so he fucked up. It's cool if I fuck up. It's just, it feels good in a level, but it also makes you kind of zoom out a little bit, not take yourself too seriously. Big fan of it, like when somebody big says something dumb or wrong, like record that, because then you can use that in your personal conversations. I used to keep that, man, just fucking psycho mode. In high school, I had my circle of friends, like 7 friends, and this is wrong, don't do it, and it's just such a weird thing to do. But I had my notebook, and I kind of wrote the things that made them tick. Like I had that in case something happened. It's like if I wanted to do something, I would just kind of write it down, and it was fairly useful. It was like really good. Don't do this, but it's just something I used to do.
You mentioned, and I'm glad I didn't forget. You mentioned Taki Moore. I just wanted to point out that, and this is going to be an interesting breakdown, but one of my clients launched his Hormozy affiliate campaign 4 days ago and is already top 7 and past Taki Moore. And he has almost basically no followers. He has a huge community outside of social media. So he has a huge community outside of social media that's extremely niche. I'd call it like 5K, really niche down in one specific, let's call it white collar niche. And he has a bunch of high friends with really good email lists that he pulled favors for. And he is like going crazy. Like he dove up the thing, and we're going to drive it home with him. We're going to help him out. And like, it's just so sick to see. And it actually just reminded me, it's just like, your true fans are so much more important than your follower count. Like you always tweet like, nice follower count. Now let's see the income.
Yeah.
I think that's important. Like, it's so important. Like, nice follower count, but like, let's see the true fans, because your followers aren't the ones who are paying you. It's the true fans, right? So like, good luck monetizing a dead audience. I thought it was interesting to see, like, just to see someone do that with such less like, there's people with hundreds of thousands of followers that are struggling.
So this guy you mentioned, does he have like an offline network? Is he like popular offline?
It's an online network. It's just outside of social media. It's like I would call it old school corporate. So it's interesting. Okay. Yeah.
What have you done offline with your money? I'm curious. Obviously, you moved to Bali. you're
Yeah.
chilling. But like, what are some cool things that you've done that doesn't involve a computer screen?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a big saver, and I'm a big and then most of the money I usually just like Dave Ramsey's advice is like only put money where you know. Like I will probably be heavy cash for the rest of my life. Uh,
Tell me a story, dude. You wanna travel? You did some cool shit.
I spend a lot of money on travel. I spend a lot of money on experiences, and then because I just prefer to buy things that I can remember and experiences that are more than just the material. So, we spend $5,000 to $6,000 on international business flight seats. We go first class as many places as we possibly can. We're those people. We also buy all the expensive dinners. Like we're very big on experiences, and not things. Like I told you, I have 7 shirts here, so it's like we're pretty non-materialistic, and maybe that's partially Bali. And I was actually just telling Julia, like when I get home, I might buy some nice sneakers because I grew up a sneakerhead. I might still be I might go back in and like buy some nice sneakers and stuff like that. But big on travel, and everyone has their thing, you know. But for me, it's buying first class seats, international, like $5,000 a piece, and